The Silent Awakening. High Admiral Vix of the Galactic Consortium stood at the observation deck of the Eternal Vigilance, her four eyes fixed on the swirling anomaly that had appeared at the edge of Consortium space. The massive warship's sensors struggled to make sense of the energy readings, which seemed to defy the laws of physics themselves. High Admiral, her second-in-command, Commander Zex, approached with a data crystal in his hand. "We've detected more anomalies. They're appearing in a pattern." High Admiral Vix of the Galactic Consortium stood rigid in the glass-walled observation chamber of the Eternal Vigilance, her four crystalline eyes fixed on the swirling anomaly that had appeared at the edge of Consortium space. The massive warship's sensors struggled to make sense of the energy readings, which seemed to defy the very laws of physics themselves. High Admiral, her second-in-command, Commander Zex, approached with a data crystal clutched in his scaled hand. "We've detected 5 more anomalies. They're appearing in a geometric pattern that suggests deliberate placement." Vix's outer membrane shifted colors, displaying the deep purple of concern. The Consortium had ruled the known galaxy for over 15 centuries, bringing order and stability through strict control of technological advancement. No species should possess the capability to create disturbances of this magnitude. "Show me," she commanded, her voice resonating with the authority of her position. The chamber's holographic display illuminated, showing a three-dimensional map of Consortium space. The anomalies appeared as pulsing red points, forming an unmistakable pentagon that pointed directly toward the Consortium's core worlds. "There's more," Zex continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. "The Archive Division has discovered something in the sealed records. Something about a species we haven't encountered in centuries." Vix turned sharply. "Sealed records. Those are restricted to the High Council alone." The anomalies triggered an automatic protocol. The records unlocked themselves. Zex inserted the crystal into a nearby terminal. Ancient text scrolled across the screens, accompanied by grainy images that made Vix's outer membrane pale to an ashen gray. The images showed beings with only 2 eyes, standing on 2 legs, their skin bare of scales or crystalline formations. Humans, a species that should have been relegated to history, their home system quarantined behind an impenetrable energy barrier 15 centuries ago. "Impossible," Vix breathed. The containment barrier was absolute. Nothing could survive inside, let alone escape. A sudden alert blared through the chamber. The largest anomaly was expanding, its swirling energy pattern stabilizing into something that chilled Vix to her core. A controlled wormhole. "All stations, battle positions," she commanded, but before the crew could respond, something emerged from the wormhole. It wasn't the primitive vessels depicted in the ancient records. This ship was a masterpiece of engineering. Its hull composed of materials that seemed to bend light itself, its size dwarfing even the Eternal Vigilance. More ships followed, each one more impressive than the last. They moved with impossible grace, their formation perfect, their technology clearly centuries beyond current Consortium capabilities. "Incoming transmission," Zex reported, his scales rattling with tension. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, using our own encryption protocols." The holographic display shifted, and Vix found herself facing a human. He appeared older, with silver-streaked hair and eyes that held centuries of purpose. His uniform was simple, black with silver trim, bearing no rank insignia or decorations. "I am Admiral Chen of the Human Collective," he spoke, his voice carrying the weight of ages. "We've come to discuss the terms of the Consortium's surrender." Vix's membrane flashed with indignation. "Surrender? The Consortium does not surrender. We have ruled this galaxy for 15 centuries, Chen interrupted. "Yes, we know. We've had time to study your empire from within our containment zone. Time to grow, to evolve, to understand what the Consortium truly is. A stagnant force that fears change so much it would imprison an entire species rather than risk them developing independently." "The containment was necessary," Vix argued. "Your species advanced too quickly, developed technologies too dangerous. And in doing so, you gave us the greatest gift possible. Chen's expression softened slightly. You gave us isolation in which to perfect our civilization. The barrier you created didn't contain us. It protected us from your influence while we grew beyond your comprehension. As if to demonstrate his words, several human ships simply vanished, reappearing instantly at different positions. Others seemed to phase through space itself, their hulls shifting between dimensions in ways that defied explanation. This is but a fraction of our fleet, Chen continued. We could have emerged anywhere in your territory, could have struck without warning. Instead, we choose to offer you a choice. Vix felt the weight of history pressing down upon her. What choice? Evolution or extinction? Not through violence, but through change. The galaxy is entering a new age, High Admiral. The consortium can either adapt and become part of it, or cling to the past and fade into history. Before Vix could respond, every screen in the chamber lit up with data, centuries of consortium secrets laid bare. The truth about the human containment, about suppressed technologies, about species kept deliberately primitive to maintain control. Your own people deserve to know the truth, Chen said. They deserve the chance to grow beyond the limitations you've imposed. We're transmitting this data to every world in consortium space. You have one standard rotation to begin discussions for a peaceful transition of power. The transmission ended, leaving Vix staring at the human fleet. She had spent her entire life enforcing the consortium's order, believing in their mission of stability through control. Now, faced with the consequences of that control, she realized their greatest fear had come true. Humanity hadn't been contained, it had been unleashed. And the galaxy would never be the same. The price of arrogance. The ancient archives beneath the consortium's capital world held secrets that hadn't seen light in centuries. Dr. Lyra Venn, the consortium's leading xenorchaeologist, moved carefully through the dusty corridors, her crystalline form glowing softly in the darkness. The human fleet's arrival had triggered automatic protocols, unlocking sealed sections that even she hadn't known existed. These records were deliberately hidden. She spoke into her data recorder, her outer membrane shifting with excitement. Not just sealed, but actively concealed from the archive index itself. The walls around her held data crystals stretching back to the consortium's founding. But one section stood out. A sealed chamber marked with warning glyphs so old they had nearly faded to nothing. Inside, she found something extraordinary. The personal logs of High Chancellor Dax, the leader who had ordered humanity's containment. As she activated the first log, a holographic figure appeared, a consortium elder from 15 centuries ago. His crystalline form showed signs of stress fractures, his outer membrane a pallid gray of deep worry. The humans must be contained, the ancient recording began. Their rate of technological advancement defies all known development patterns. In the mere decades since we first contacted them, they've already begun to match our achievements of centuries. The hologram flickered, showing images of early human ships, primitive by current standards, but advancing at an incredible pace. Their minds work differently than any species we've encountered. Where we seek to perfect existing technologies, they constantly innovate. Where we build upon established principles, they question the principles themselves. Lyra watched, transfixed, as the logs revealed the truth behind humanity's containment. The consortium hadn't acted out of malice, but fear. Fear of a species that couldn't be controlled, couldn't be predicted, couldn't be made to follow the ordained path of technological development. We thought the containment barrier would hold them. A later log entry continued, the High Chancellor now showing visible signs of deterioration. We thought it would force them to regress, to start over under our careful supervision. We were wrong. The last probes we sent through. The readings make no sense. They're doing things with quantum mechanics that should be impossible. They're developing technologies we never even conceived of. A sudden alert interrupted Lyra's research. Above ground, the human fleet had begun moving, their ships taking up positions around key consortium worlds. not in attack formation, but in a perfect geometric pattern that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of space-time. Her communicator chimed. "Dr. Ven." Admiral Chen's voice came through, somehow knowing exactly where to find her. "I believe you found the historical context you were looking for. Would you like to understand what happened after the barrier went up?" Lyra's membrane shifted to the deep blue of intellectual curiosity. "You've been watching me." "We've been watching everything," Chen replied. "The barrier didn't just contain us in space. It contained us in a bubble of accelerated time. What was 15 centuries for you was nearly 15 millennia for us. Time enough to understand the fundamental nature of reality itself." Above the archive, the human ships began to pulse with energy. Lyra's instruments registered quantum fluctuations on a scale she'd never seen before. "What are you doing?" "Showing you what the consortium feared, humanity's true potential. Watch." The energy pulses synchronized, and for a moment, reality itself seemed to hiccup. When it stabilized, the archives around Lyra had changed. The dust was gone, the crystals restored to perfect condition, the very fabric of the building renewed. "Temporal restoration," Chen explained. "Just one of the technologies we developed while contained. We learned to manipulate time, space, and the quantum fabric of reality itself. Not through the careful, methodical advancement the consortium demands, but through bold experimentation and intuitive leaps." Lyra stood in the restored archive, her scientific mind racing with the implications. "Why show me this? Why not simply use your power to take control?" "Because that's what the consortium would do." Chen's voice held a smile. "We learned something more important than technology in our isolation. We learned wisdom. Power without wisdom leads to exactly what the consortium created: a society frozen in fear of change." Through her communicator, Lyra could see the human fleet continuing their strange geometric pattern around consortium space. And what do humans want now? To teach, to share, to help the galaxy's species reach their true potential. The consortium built its power on control and limitation. We'll build the future on freedom and collaboration. New data began flowing through the archived crystals. The true history of humanity's achievements in containment. Lyra saw technologies that bordered on magic, scientific advances that rewrote the laws of physics, and most surprisingly, a society that had grown past the need for dominion over others. The consortium's greatest fear, Chen concluded, wasn't that humanity would destroy them. It was that we would show them a better way to exist. Now, after 15,000 years of preparation, we're ready to do exactly that. As if to emphasize his words, the human fleet's energy pattern reached its peak. Across consortium space, ancient technologies began to activate, hidden quantum networks coming alive after centuries of dormancy. Humanity hadn't just advanced during their containment. They had seeded the galaxy with the tools of its own transformation. The age of the consortium was ending, not with violence, but with enlightenment. Echoes of the past. The streets of Consortium Prime erupted in chaos as the truth spread across quantum networks. Citizens gathered around public holoprojectors, their crystalline forms shimmering with a rainbow of emotional colors as they absorbed centuries of hidden history. The revelation of humanity's containment and the consortium's deception sparked a transformation that rippled through society like a quantum wave. In the central administration tower, Counselor Mira 6 watched the upheaval through windows of quantum glass. Her outer membrane had settled into a deep shade of contemplative azure as she observed the end of an era. "The Artesian Collective has declared independence," her aide reported, adding to the growing list of systems breaking away from consortium control. "The Nexus worlds are calling for immediate diplomatic relations with the humans. Even the inner worlds are demanding reform." "How many systems remain loyal?" Mira asked, though she already knew the answer. "Loyal? None, Counselor. But 17 systems have requested human assistance in transitioning to independence. They're not rebelling. They're evolving." A soft chime announced a new presence in the room. Admiral Chen materialized without ceremony. his human form seeming oddly simple next to the crystalline elegance of consortium architecture. Yet there was a depth to his presence that made the tower's quantum-enhanced materials resonate in harmony. "Your people are adapting remarkably well," Chen observed, his voice carrying genuine admiration. "We expected resistance, perhaps even violence. Instead, we're seeing transformation." Mira turned to face him, her membrane shifting to display diplomatic neutral tones. "You've had 15,000 years to perfect your approach. The consortium never stood a chance, did we?" "That's where you're wrong," Chen smiled. "We didn't spend millennia planning conquest or revenge. We spent it understanding the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. The quantum networks we seeded throughout consortium space don't just share information, they share understanding." As if on cue, the tower's quantum glass windows rippled with new patterns. Below, the crowds had begun to organize themselves, their collective consciousness resonating with newfound purpose. Mira watched in amazement as crystalline citizens spontaneously formed geometric patterns that mirrored the human fleet's formation. "They're accessing the quantum consciousness network," Chen explained, "not through technology, but through their own evolved awareness. Your species has always had this potential. The consortium just never allowed it to develop." Suddenly, the patterns below shifted, and Mira felt something she never experienced before: a direct quantum connection to the collective consciousness of her people. Through this link, she understood what humanity had discovered during their containment. Consciousness itself was a quantum phenomenon, capable of transcending normal space-time limitations. "This is what the old council feared," she whispered, her membrane pulsing with revelation. "Not just our technological advancement, but our potential for quantum consciousness evolution." "Exactly," Chen nodded. "The barrier didn't just contain us in space. It created a laboratory where we could explore the true nature of existence. Now we're sharing that knowledge, not through conquest or force, but through awakening." Across consortium space, similar transformations were occurring. Species long kept in technological stasis were experiencing quantum awakening. Ancient technologies, dormant for centuries, synchronized with evolved consciousness. The rigid hierarchy of the consortium was dissolving, replaced by a network of quantum-linked minds working in harmony. In orbit, the human fleet continued their geometric formation, but Mira now understood its true purpose. They weren't preparing for war. They were maintaining a quantum resonance field that facilitated this mass awakening. "There's something else you should see," Chen said, gesturing to the quantum glass. The view shifted, showing a massive structure taking shape in deep space. "We call it the Nexus, a gathering place where all species can share knowledge and experience. Not a seat of power like Consortium Prime, but a symbol of unity and diversity." The structure defied conventional physics, its quantum architecture responding directly to conscious intent. As Mira watched, ships from dozens of former consortium worlds approached it, each adding their own unique patterns to its evolving design. "The consortium sought to prevent change," Chen continued. "We learned to embrace it. Your people are now free to do the same." Through the quantum network, Mira felt the excitement and apprehension of billions of minds discovering their true potential. The rigid order of the consortium was giving way to something far more beautiful, a harmonious chaos of endless possibility. "What happens now?" she asked, though the quantum link was already showing her glimpses of possible futures. "Now," Chen's eyes twinkled, "now we all grow together. The age of containment is over. The age of quantum consciousness has begun." Above them, the human fleet's formation pulsed one final time, and across the galaxy, the last barriers to quantum consciousness evolution dissolved. The transformation that humanity had undergone in isolation was spreading, not as an invasion, but as an awakening. The consortium's greatest fear had come true, but not in the way they had imagined. Humanity hadn't returned to destroy them. They had returned to set them free. Breaking chains. The quantum consciousness network spread like starfire through the galaxy, reaching worlds long forgotten by the consortium. On the desert planet Karax, The silicon-based Litharians watched their crystalline spires pulse with new energy as ancient quantum receivers activated. In the gas giants of the Meros system, the floating aerovores felt their collective consciousness expand beyond their atmospheric bounds for the first time in centuries. Captain Sarah Chen, daughter of Admiral Chen, stood on the bridge of the Earth's promise, watching as another world awakened. The Litharians had been classified as a primitive species by the consortium, restricted to their single world, despite having achieved space flight centuries ago. They're requesting contact, her first officer, Dr. James Rodriguez, reported. Their quantum signature is stabilizing remarkably fast. Sarah nodded, feeling the resonance through her own quantum-enhanced consciousness. The Litharians weren't primitive. They had simply developed along a different path than the consortium had deemed acceptable. Their silicon-based technology had evolved in harmony with their crystalline environment, creating a unique form of quantum computing that the consortium had never understood. "Open a channel," she commanded. The holofield shimmered, revealing a Litharian elder, their crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns that spoke of deep wisdom. "We remember." The elder's thoughts came through the quantum link, more direct than mere verbal communication. "We remember the stars. We remember freedom." Sarah shared an image through the quantum network, the new nexus taking shape in deep space, its quantum architecture incorporating designs and technologies from dozens of species. "You're invited to remember more than just the past," she responded. "We're building a future where all paths of development are valued." Across the sector, similar scenes played out as human ships made contact with suppressed civilizations. The aerovores shared their mastery of atmospheric manipulation, vital for terraforming new worlds. The aquatic meridians revealed their organic technology, capable of growing starships from modified coral. Each species brought unique perspectives and technologies that the consortium had deemed too unpredictable to allow. On the edge of former consortium space, another drama unfolded. A group of hardline consortium warships had gathered, their commanders refusing to accept the new reality. They prepared to launch a final assault against the human fleet, believing their superior numbers would overwhelm even humanity's advanced technology. Sarah's ship detected their movement. Through the quantum network, she felt their fear, their desperate clinging to the old order. But she also felt something else. Doubt spreading through their crews as the quantum awakening reached them. "They're going to attack," Rodriguez observed, but Sarah smiled. "No," she said. "Watch." As the consortium fleet moved to engage, their crews began to experience quantum awakening. Generations of suppressed consciousness emerge, connecting with the galactic quantum network. One by one, the warships powered down their weapons as their crews chose enlightenment over conflict. "How did you know?" Rodriguez asked. "Because that's what humanity learned in containment," Sarah explained. "True power isn't about forcing change. It's about creating the conditions where change becomes inevitable. The consortium's suppression created pressure. We're just releasing it." The quantum network pulsed with new connections as the former consortium worlds found their voices. The nexus grew more complex, incorporating architectural elements from each awakened civilization. It wasn't just a symbol of unity. It was unity made manifest, a physical expression of quantum-linked consciousness. In the heart of former consortium space, the last holdouts of the old order watched their power evaporate, not through violence or force, but through the simple act of awakening. Species they had deemed primitive were now achieving technological breakthroughs that defied conventional physics. Worlds they had controlled for centuries were developing new forms of quantum society that made traditional governance obsolete. Sarah received a quantum transmission from her father. Through their enhanced connection, she felt his pride, not just in humanity's achievements, but in how they had chosen to use them. The containment barrier that had been meant to suppress humanity had instead forced them to transcend traditional development. Now they were sharing that transcendence freely, healing the wounds of centuries with understanding rather than vengeance. "The Litharians are requesting permission to send representatives to the Nexus," Rodriguez reported. "They've already designed quantum ships capable of reaching it." Permission. Sarah smiled. The whole point is that they don't need permission anymore. Send them the quantum coordinates. Let them discover their own path. As she watched the Litharian ships take shape, their crystalline hulls reflecting the light of their sun, Sarah felt the quantum network pulse with possibility. The age of containment and control was over. The age of infinite diversity had begun. Through the quantum link, she felt the excitement of billions of minds discovering their true potential. Species that had been isolated for centuries were sharing technologies, philosophies, and dreams. The rigid hierarchy of the consortium was being replaced by something far more powerful, a network of free civilizations, each contributing their unique perspective to the galactic consciousness. The liberation humanity had found in containment was spreading, transforming the galaxy one awakened mind at a time. And it was happening exactly as they had planned, not through conquest or dominance, but through the simple act of showing others what was possible. A new dawn. The Nexus hung in space like a dream made manifest, its quantum architecture pulsing with the combined consciousness of 1,000 species. At its heart, in a chamber that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions, the first Galactic Council was gathering, not to rule, but to share, each species bringing their unique perspective to the quantum consciousness network that now spanned the former consortium space. Admiral Chen stood before the assembled representatives, his form seeming to shift between physical and quantum states. After 15,000 years of preparation, humanity's great experiment was reaching its culmination. In our containment, we discovered something profound. He addressed the gathering, his words carrying through both conventional and quantum channels. The universe isn't meant to follow a single path of development. Every species, every civilization, every mind holds a unique piece of the cosmic puzzle. The chamber resonated with agreement as quantum-linked minds shared understanding deeper than words. The Litharians demonstrated their silicon-based quantum computing, showing how it could enhance the network's capabilities. The Aerovores shared their atmospheric manipulation technology, already being adapted to terraform worlds once thought uninhabitable. The Meridian's organic starships orbited the Nexus, their living hulls adding new patterns to the quantum field. High Admiral Vix, now transformed by quantum awakening, stepped forward. Her crystalline form had evolved, becoming a bridge between the old consortium and the new galactic order. We thought control brought stability, she admitted. But true stability comes from diversity, from the harmony of different paths evolving together. Through the quantum network, images flowed from across the galaxy. Former consortium worlds were transforming as suppressed technologies flourished. Species once deemed primitive were achieving breakthroughs that redefined possible. The rigid hierarchies of the past were dissolving, replaced by organic networks of cooperation and shared discovery. Dr. Lyra Venn, who had first uncovered the truth in the consortium archives, presented her findings to the council. The containment barrier wasn't just a prison, she explained, her consciousness resonating with revelation. It was a catalyst. By isolating humanity, the old consortium inadvertently created the perfect conditions for transcendent evolution. In orbit around the Nexus, the human fleet maintained their geometric formation, but now other species' ships had joined them, each adding their own patterns to the quantum resonance field. The combined energy was transforming space itself, creating new possibilities for travel and communication that transcended traditional physics. But our greatest discovery wasn't technological, Admiral Chen continued. It was understanding that consciousness itself is the fundamental force of the universe. When we stopped trying to control it and learned to flow with it, we found power beyond anything the consortium had imagined. Sarah Chen, watching from the Earth's promise, felt the truth of her father's words ripple through the quantum network. The containment that was meant to suppress humanity had instead forced them to look inward, to explore the true nature of existence. Now they were sharing that understanding, not as conquerors, but as teachers and fellow explorers. The council chamber shifted, its quantum architecture responding to the collective consciousness of the gathered species. Images of possible futures flowed through the network. Worlds transformed. Consciousnesses expanded. Barriers between species dissolved. The age of separation was ending. The age of unity and diversity had begun. The consortium feared change. Chen addressed the gathering. They feared the unpredictability of free development. But change is the only constant in the universe. The only true stability comes from embracing it, from allowing each consciousness to find its own path while remaining connected to the whole. Through the quantum network, billions of minds shared in the moment. Species that had been enemies under the consortium discovered the joy of collaborative creation. Technologies that had been suppressed merged and evolved in ways their originators had never imagined. The rigid order of the past gave way to a harmonious chaos of infinite possibility. The Nexus itself was a testament to this new philosophy. Its structure continued to grow and change, incorporating elements from every species that joined the network. It wasn't just a seat of governance. It was a living symbol of what was possible when diversity was celebrated rather than controlled. We offer humanity's gift to the galaxy, Chen concluded. Not our technology, not our power, but our understanding. The barriers between us are illusions. In quantum consciousness, we are all one, each unique perspective contributing to the greater whole. As if in response to his words, the quantum network pulsed with unprecedented power. Across the galaxy, the last vestiges of the old order dissolved. The containment barrier that had held humanity for 15 millennia disappeared completely, its energy absorbed into the growing network of awakened consciousness. The great experiment was complete. Humanity had emerged from containment not seeking revenge, but offering transcendence. The consortium's greatest fear had been realized, but not as they had imagined. Humanity hadn't returned to destroy the old order. They had returned to help birth a new one. In the quantum consciousness network, billions of minds shared a single thought. The dawn of true civilization had begun. Not through control, not through suppression, but through the infinite power of consciousness set free to evolve along its own path. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter as the galaxy awakened to its true potential, united in diversity, eternal in change.